Welcome back to the table, friends. I am your humble host, Gray DMs, and with me as always is my co-host and co-conspirator, Owen.
Hi there.
You are listening to Tabletop by Night, a weekly podcast where we continue our exploration of Vampire the Masquerade. Tonight we gather around the table to answer the question, if embracing our darkest desires is the path to enlightenment, what secrets might we learn if we only dared to listen?
Ooh, spooky.
So, like once before, today we are going to mix things up a little bit, and we are going to explore a clan of mystery,
intrigue.
Intrigue, suspense.
No, it's intrigue and avarice. Yeah.
So we're going to explore the ministry, or I guess what's the current version of the Setite clan, and I am going to turn to Owen to teach me about this wondrous best friend clan that you would lovely trust with everything you should ever have.
Snake clan is best clan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I decided to take this one just because it's one of my favorite clans, which is a departure because usually I'm kind of like, the good guy. Like you can ask Gray when we play games. I'm usually the helper. I'm usually the really straightforward, ask me anything and I'll lend you a hand type of player. And
the goodest of good boys.
Yeah, I really am. But there's just something about this clan that really just piqued my interest. So yes, as he said, we're talking about the followers of Set, or the ministry as they're called in the modern parlance. Nicknames of said clan are the Serpents, Setites, Cobras, Snake Charmers, and the Blasphemers.
Yes, that is the clan of the best boys.
It really is. Doesn't that just lend you a sense of trust? And
these are people that you would take to meet your grandparents.
That's right. And with this first sentence, I'm sure it will really lay that message home. The mission of the followers of Set is summed up succinctly in one word: corruption.
No. Oh no.
Followers of Set, they aim to undermine and dismantle all that is pure, honorable, and beautiful with both kindred and human societies. Renowned for their cunning and manipulation, they excel in the arts of misdirection, temptation, and using tools such as drugs, sex, money, and power, and vice to achieve their goals. They're like gardeners who plant weeds instead of flowers, deliberately spoiling the garden's beauty.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Right. So we've had clans of artists, self-grandized lords, oracles.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Kind of monstrous, but good-hearted people.
I mean, they followed their goals, their inner feelings. Yes.
Warrior priests. People are, it's been warrior poets.
Oh yes. Yep.
People that basically hippies that wanted to live on their own.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And now we get to basically the devil.
the spoilers of all that is. Yes. That is basically the Setites.
I don't know why you wouldn't want them in your city.
So, for many within the followers of Set, or the ministry, its pursuit of corruption is merely a pathway to a greater end. They adhere to the belief that there exists a profound economy between the divine, eternal soul and the corrupt, fleeting world and body. According to their doctrine, the soul innately understands that it does not belong in this material prison. Thus, anything that diverts the soul from this truth and binds it to the worldly concerns is considered a snare. If the world is a prison, then by extension, the gods are its warders. The Setites believe that true liberation for the soul involves casting off all false beliefs, desires, and habits that constrain and obscure its vision. They argue that such profound self-awareness cannot be achieved through simple debate or faith alone. It requires a direct, often extreme experiences that can sever the god's hold over the soul, allowing for ultimate liberation. Through these experiences, the Setites believe they can attain divine power over the world and free themselves from all physical and spiritual shackles. They've already begun this journey of liberation with their transformation into vampires. They see the soul as a bird trapped in a cage, believing that breaking the cage is the only way to truly fly free.
Okay, so they basically take in the kind of Eastern philosophies of like the separation from the material world and yourself, but instead of saying like, oh, you need to learn more about yourself, they're like, no,
the
you
self
need to break the world.
Yes, you need to break the self and therefore be free of the world.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, it's great. Yeah, it's wonderful. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, right?
I agree, future convert. Let's continue.
All right.
It took time for the Setites to acknowledge their kinship with other vampires, and some of their elders remained unconvinced. So generally, for a long time, Setites didn't believe they were vampires. They thought vampires were a completely separate thing from themselves. Because a lot of their faith, a lot of their, I don't really want to call it religion, but their history is focused more in the Egyptian mythos, kind of far away from a lot of the Eastern European kind of mythos that a lot of the other vampires tend to do. But yeah, so initially vampires from other clans were perceived as either pawns of opposing Egyptian gods or manifestations of malevolent spirits from the underworld, sharing nothing but their existence in both the material and spiritual realms. In line with their view of truth as a tool wielded by deceptive gods, the Setites have entertained multiple theories regarding their nature. During the Dark Ages, it was commonly believed that their essence had descended to Duat, the underworld. Their bodies, sustained by the waters of death, the Vitae, still housed their Ba, personality, and Ka, life essence. Other doctrines, particularly those used in Aku, proposed a complex system surrounding the ninefold soul, identifying different components of the vampire's being, such as the Kat, body, the Ba, one component of Vitae, the Ab, humanity, Kahibit, the beast, and Sekhem, another part of Vitae, among others. As one of the 4 oldest independent clans, tracing their lineage back to a formidable antediluvian, the followers of Set command a measure of respect among the kindred. After much debate, they were once invited to join the Camarilla, an invitation that was largely ignored by the Setites, and a great sigh of relief by the Camarilla.
It's just like, wait. So, the council's talking to the followers of Set? Oh, about joining us?
Do we want to do this?
Is this?
Did they talk to anybody else? Wait, did the Setites suggest this?
Is this the jihad? Is this time to rise?
Despite this, both the Camarilla and sometimes even Sabbat have sought assistance of the followers of Set in various complex intrigues, acknowledging them as necessary evil within vampire society. In recent centuries, the Setites have gained significant influence in the Caribbean, directly controlling several powerful and field Haitian secret societies and Jamaican posses that dominate much of the international drug trade. Imagine that. They're also rumored to have complete control over at least one Near Eastern terrorist organization. Take your pick. The prevalent use of serpent imagery by the clan, which became more prominent with the rise of the Abrahamic religions, is not traditionally linked to Set. Some older Setites show annoyance with the constant association with snakes, although several have embraced this imagery for their benefit.
Okay, so gotcha.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's parse this.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing that I'm thinking of is that I don't believe the other clans understand what the Setites are.
No, I don't think they do either. Otherwise, they'd be blood hunt immediately.
Yeah, it would be a purge. Like there would be it's so if you understood what they are, it'd be so obvious that just having them near you would be akin to a war crime.
So this is getting ahead a little bit, but let's talk about the clan banes and the clan compulsions, just because that fits into this really well. So a clan bane, they have a sensitivity to light. I mean, I know all vampires tend to have a sensitivity to, the sun, but for Setites, it kind of goes beyond this. So Setites, or the members of the ministry, they suffer from a heightened sensitivity to light. They take additional damage from sunlight, which is more severe compared to other vampire clans. This sensitivity also extends to other sources of bright light, such as powerful artificial lights, which can cause discomfort and impair their ability to function in bright lit environments. This bane symbolizes their affinity for darkness and shadow, both metaphorically in their secretive, subversive activities and literally in their physical aversion to light. This weakness necessitates that members of the ministry take great care during daylight hours and in well-lit conditions, often impacting their operations and strategies. So this can actually turn into, if they go into a very bright room, they start taking negative effects on dice rolls and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Because it's actually affecting them so strongly. So the clan compulsion.
Oh,
what do you think this one is?
Ruin everything? Corruption?
Corruption compulsion.
There we go.
They feel a compelling urge to corrupt or degrade something or someone whenever the opportunity arises. This compulsion manifests in a need to introduce or amplify vice and moral decay, whether through encouraging addictive behavior, spreading lies and deceit, or undermining social or moral order. This could involve manipulating a situation to make someone act against their own moral code or exacerbating existing tensions and vices in an environment. This corruption forces them to act in a way that aligns with their clan's ethos of spreading darkness and corruption, often complicating their interactions with others and occasionally clashing with their longer-term goals. So literally, their job is, I ruined it.
Yeah.
So yes, I very strongly agree with you. I think the other clans have no idea really what they are.
It's like
they just think they're emo Ventru, I think.
Ventru. They're just like, oh no, man, I've heard weird stories about those Egyptian guys. They like, oh, and like they don't like light and stuff like that. But yeah, they can't be that bad, right? It's like having him at this table is a scourge.
Mm-hmm.
You need to kill him immediately. I mean, yes. So one of the things that we're going to understand effectively is when we find the origins of the clans that are basically part of the Sabbat, or they were designed to be part of the Sabbat. They kind of have less than redeemable sources.
So here's the thing that's hilarious about this. The Sabbat don't like the Setites.
I wonder why.
Their ideology sometimes fits together, because basically this Sabbat's like, fuck the Camarilla, I want to fuck up the Camarilla. And the Setites like, hey, that's a good idea, I want to fuck with the Camarilla. And then the Camarilla would be like, well, fuck the Sabbat, I want to fuck up the Sabbat. And the Setites are like, yeah, cool, I want to fuck up the Sabbat, you know? And it's just kind of this whole, they're opportunistic in, you know, their goals, where it's just like, as long as everyone loses, we win.
Yeah, jeez. It's a lot like that tree from the second Name of the Wind book, you know, where people are just like, no, you talk to the tree.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, but it just told me something, you know. It's just like, yeah, you don't realize that the thing it told you is what's going to make you do what you want it to do,
like,
or what it wanted you to do.
Look, don't worry about it. Like, we got it. He used to be, you know, as part of the ministry, came in, we got him. It's good. He's a young guy. He's not going to do anything. He's a great guy. He's going to start. In fact, you know, he already reached out to a couple community involvement programs.
Yeah.
We think he's going to do great things here. Specifically, he's been talking about like trying to take over management of the orphanage. That's a great thing. He has his hands in some of the farming things that are going on here. This all seems good.
Yeah, I mean, he dove right into the needle exchange. We didn't even ask him to, but he just jumped right into it and just really wanted to take a head on it.
50 years go by, they're just like, we made a mistake.
We fucked up.
We really screwed this one, guys. Yeah.
Why is everything on fire? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he worked out a deal with the lumber companies and we built everything out of wood. It's all on fire now. I don't understand. Like, but this is a match factory. Why would you build a match factory out of wood? I don't know. He just convinced us that it was a really good idea. Lower overhead. All right, so this is where it's going to get a little convoluted. I'm going to end up skipping a lot of history just because it contradicts itself so much. But I'm going to give kind of the two most accepted versions of the origin of the clan. So obviously, followers of Set, you some point have to have someone named Set. So we're going to talk about Set. So Set is portrayed not just as a mythological deity, but as one of the antediluvians, vampiric beings of immense power who are progenitors of the modern vampiric clans. According to the lore, Set claims to have been turned into a vampire by Cain himself, the first vampire. Probably unlikely, but he's up there. It's a progeny of Cain. It's someone very close to him at least. So, I mean, if true, he's one of the earliest vampires.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And none of the other clan antediluvians can really say that.
No.
They're all gone. So Set is, I mean, people who are familiar with Egyptian religion, philosophy, whatever, Set is probably recognizable as, the name of one of their gods. The Masquerade books kind of lay it out more of he probably became a vampire and then became a god because he was a vampire. And he has relation. So we're going to give you two different versions of why Set became the way he did. So anybody who's watched Stargate has heard of Ra. They've probably heard of Horus. They've probably heard of Apophis and Osiris. So Ra would be the grandfather of Set, Osiris, and Isis. Osiris being Set's older brother, Isis being his sister. Osiris and Isis, they hooked up. They got married. I guess that's just the way things worked back in the day. They had children. And Ra basically turned over his kingdom to Osiris. And this upset Set. So let's go through this a little bit here. So the sun god Ra grew old and decided to retire. He chose his great-grandson Osiris as his heir and successor, but that did not sit well with Osiris's brother Set, for he was the mightiest warrior among the gods who guarded the sun Baroque. Yes, sun Baroque. Of Ra every night as it passed under the earth from the gates of sunset to the gates of dawn, battling Apophis, the great serpent of darkness. The succession of Ra brought great strife among the descendants until Horus prevailed, and Ra gave Set two foreign goddesses as concubines and made him god of storms, saying, "He will thunder in the sky and make men afraid." In another version of this, Ra is depicted as a malevolent tyrant. It is said the first city was called Anu, and it was the city of Ra. The story goes much like the version mentioned above, but it has radically different ending. According to this version, after the triumph of Horus turned on his defender and cursed Set to live in darkness forever. Then the gods thrust Set into Duat, the dark underworld of the dead, and the river of death whose waters come from the primeval ocean itself, where Set fought the great serpent Apophis once more. He slew the worm of darkness and ate its heart. With Apep's death, Set took on Apep's dark wisdom and learned secrets hidden from the beginning of the world. When Ra had created the world, he gave it life through his own semen. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. Creating gods and souls of human beings alike, souls different in size but not in kind. Jealous Ra lied to all of his children. He told them that he was mightiest of all things, creator of the universe, when he merely shaped a tiny portion of the primeval waters. Now, however, Set knew the truth. All souls could grow as mighty as their tyrant father and become creators themselves. Set returned to the world by stealth. The primeval waters carry life as well as death. Every year, the gates of the world open to let the primeval waters bring new life through the yearly inundation of the Nile. Set disguised himself as a water serpent and slipped through the gates with the rushing waters. He swore to overthrow Ra, not for revenge, but for compassion, to liberate the souls Ra held in bondage. See, that's what I'd do. I'd use it as, I'm not doing this for me, guys. I'm doing it for you. Yep.
I'm a person of the people.
That's right. Despite the power gained from Apophis, Set still had to hide from the sun. He could not break the curse of Ra, nor did he truly live, for he had tasted the waters of death. As soon as Ra learned from the moon that Set had defeated Apophis and escaped the underworld, he extended his curse to the 12 human disciples with whom Set had shared blood, decreeing that all who joined Set's rebellion against the gods would share his banishment from the sun and his cast Wow, his castration and having that sealed their pact in blood, the 13 would feed on blood alone. And so, from the curse of Ra and the powers of Apophis, Set and his 12 disciples became the first vampires. So this is the reason that a lot of Setites didn't think they were vampires. They thought vampires were something different altogether, and Set was his own thing. But now we go to Ra the mortal instead of the Ra the god.
All right.
So a Canaanite Egyptologist called Surmeriat de Urban tells a secular tale about Ra and Set, the founder of his own clan. So this de Urban is a Setite himself. According to Marriott, Ra was a mighty chieftain under whose leadership the primitive peoples of the Nile conquered and united Upper and Lower Egypt. As a good Setite, Marriott remarks that the kingdom was consolidated largely due to Set's skill at arms. He's the real OG. But Ra was jealous ruler. He commanded his son and daughter Geb and Nut to bear no children of their own, fearing that offspring might covet his power. It was only through trickery that the pair birthed sons and daughters. He was also wary of the influence of Set and Osiris, who had married their own sisters, Isis and Nephthys, respectively, and while Osiris fathered Horus, Set produced no children at all. As Ra grew feeble with age, his mind decaying, he ordered the deaths of Geb and Nut for siring children and betraying his command. His son Geb was buried alive, and his daughter Nut, after she had been killed, was dismembered, her flesh fed to vultures. In later years, the martyred brother and sister would eventually be worshipped as God because of their tragic fate. Great-hearted Set cried out against his parents' murder and fought Ra, whom he now hated. As punishment for his loyalty to his parents, Set was exiled to the deserts, which flanked the thin strips of fertile land on either side of the Nile, while his treacherous elder brother Osiris remained silent, prostrating himself before Ra like a cur. Declaring himself loyal to his grandfather, Osiris was made Ra's heir, and as soon as Ra died, he became king of the Upper and Lower Egypt. Obsequious to the end, Osiris declared his late grandfather divine, and so the worship of Ra, the sun god, became established throughout the lands of the Nile. Set would return when he heard of his grandfather's death, only to be exiled once again, this time by his brother. Traveling the lands of Assyria, Set would eventually be discovered by his future sire, a child of Cain. So, I mean, obviously these are both fiction, but I feel the second version is probably closer to what really happened.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I mean, you have someone who was betrayed by first their grandfather and then by their brother and then exiled from their homeland and basically told, like, hey, you're not what we're looking for. I'm sorry, you're going to have to move on. So it kind of, gets you into where his mindset is, why he decided to become the creature that he is.
I just think that the child of Cain that was you know what, this person,
this guy,
power.
This
guy, power. This is gonna be good.
Well, I mean, if you look at a lot of the antediluvians and things like that, do you think a lot of them really deserved the power that they received?
Not really. Some of them, there were probably like passion projects. I think a large portion of the antediluvian kind of myth that makes sense as you think about it is like there was not such a thing as diablerie before they did it.
Right.
So people just didn't think. The three probably never thought, oh, these people will rise up and eat us. They were just like,
they wouldn't dare.
I'm going to be your boss forever. Still don't know about hiring a Setite though.
I don't know. Still seems like a good idea. All right. So Osiris, he was the progeny of a vampire known as Typhon, who anticipated that his skills would be useful in the growing jihad. However, he did not accept his new condition and sought to overcome it. Thus, he invested his time in ancient methods of meditation and deep mystical enlightenment to develop a new discipline, the bardo. This discipline allows one to control the ravishing beast within. After gaining mastery of it, he preached his newfound way to the other kindred, thus forming a caitiff lineage, not necessarily a clan or bloodline, known as the Children of Osiris. You basically had the fight between Osiris and Set. Eventually, Set did kill Osiris.
Okay.
You can look that up later, but it goes outside the bounds of what I felt like doing research on.
Look, we're not here to give you all the answers.
Yeah, no.
We're just here to talk about
and like Yeah, we're just here to kind of hit the big notes, and
Trying to understand why a bunch of thin bloods would not understand why someone, Tremere, flipping out at the idea that Setites are in the town would make a lot of sense to anybody who know what vampirism was. Oh, it's the Setites. Oh God, we're all in trouble. We've already lost. We have to run away. We have to run away now.
All right. So the follower of Set, they later rebranded themselves as the Ministry. They worship Set as their dark god and progenitor. They believe that Set was not merely a figure of evil as often depicted in common mythology, but rather a liberator from the constraints imposed by laws and moralities of both gods and men. To them, Set represents the ultimate form of enlightenment and freedom through the embrace of mastery of one's inner darkness. So let's go over some motives here. So Set's motives, as embraced by his followers, revolve around the concept of undermining the structures of order and morality that constrain individual freedoms and power. See, that's a good sentence. I can't disagree with anything said there.
This all makes sense to my heart.
It does. It feels... No, it's there. It's just black.
It's just moved, too. It's held in a box, buried someplace across town.
We'll get to that. This is not pursued out of mere malevolence, but from a belief in the transformative power of chaos and the personal liberation that comes from understanding and controlling one's basest impulses. The clan's practices and rituals often involve ceremonies that reflect this philosophy, promoting personal growth through trials that involve confronting or harnessing one's darkest desires. The followers of Set, and later the Ministry, view their worship and emulation of Set as a path to true freedom, viewing the rest of vampire society, indeed human society, as living under the yoke of outdated and oppressive moralities and laws. They see Set as a figure who challenges the status quo, making him a central figure in their spiritual and cultural identity. The reverence for Set drives their actions within the game's narrative, often placing them at odds with other vampire clans and sects who view their practices with suspicions or outright hostility. Come on. Why?
Why? Oh my God, it's so anti my personality. Like I can't even find myself justifying it. I'm just like, this is literally like, I'm the person. I would be every vampire on their side of the table that's like, burn that person, burn that to the ground. Like, no, there's no reason. Look, we have to talk about this politically. I'm like, the fact that person is at the table, we've already lost.
Come on, those are old world views. We're in the future now. You know, we can't. That's old talk.
It's just, they're so evil. Like, it's not even like they're Vampire the Masquerade is a game that, you know, basically has a different, it explores morality in all kinds of different methods. And, you know, when you play something like D&D, there's a whole concept of like, you know, the good versus evil thing about like altruism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In Vampire, you assume everybody's kind of out for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be some level of shitty. And like, you're going to explore those levels of shitty. But, like,
absolutely.
Setites are just like, they've like drilled beyond the sewers. They're like in the hot magma of a shitty universe, you know?
Well, it's like, I almost envision them as a vampire counselor who, like, you know, a gangrel comes in. They're just like, yeah, I went to the bar the other day and this guy was talking. I just beat the shit out of him. And the Setite's just like, oh, how did that make you feel? Well, I felt angry, but then after I was done, you know, I just felt empty for what I did. And the Setite would be, do you think killing their family would make you feel better?
Maybe that sin should not go unpunished. Is that what we're? My God, yeah, like a vampire counselor, and everybody's just like, he's a caitiff, right? He's got a lot of Egyptian shit in his office.
Got an Ankh tattoo.
We should probably send some people to go check on this. Should we get some Tremere blood tests here? Can we do a round of blood tests on this guy?
He's got some tattoos that are kind of like really outdated, you know? It's like, well, he couldn't have got those after he became a vampire.
Oh, it's weird. So weird. I to all the listeners, I do have a lot of respect for like basically people who decide to make this their own and do it in a way that's not just like
chaotically evil.
I mean, the stories that we've heard, and maybe we'll talk about stuff like that later on, they can be quite beautiful, but it is just so on the nose evil that it's just kind of like, yeah. All right.
Where did I leave off? Yeah, so the exact details of their early history remain shrouded in mystery. Records from previous editions of Vampire the Masquerade suggest variations in their story, reflecting a lack of concrete historical documentation within the vampire community. All right, so with all of the shining endorsements we've given Setites so far, let's talk about some of the rivalries that Setites might have with some of the other clans.
What kind of beef could they have?
I'm only touching on a couple of them here because to really go in depth on this would be an entirely different podcast by itself. So let's start with one of the big ones, the Ventru. There's a significant rivalry between the Ministry and the Ventru, mainly due to conflicting interests in control and power structures. The Ventru's rigid adherence to order and hierarchy clashes with the Ministry's philosophy of chaos, personal liberation. Pretty much two sides of the same coin. Structure, order, follow the leader, do what they say. The other side, burn it to the fucking ground, but we're still kind of going to tell you how to do it. We're going to give you that, kind of way to go forward, and we're going to really empower you, make you feel good about what you're doing.
It's interesting. That is kind of interesting. Like the Venture, definitely, I could feel like it makes complete sense why they would be one of the number one, like, open conflicts with the Setites, because if Venture are not in control, they're going to try to get in control. But once they have control, the worst thing to them is bringing those influences in. They want control and lockdown and everything in its place, which is the antithesis of what the Setites want.
And I feel like the funnest thing for a Setite would be to let the Ventures get in, gain control, structure everything, and then pull the rug out from underneath them.
Yeah, like you could absolutely see some ancient Setite like, I'm just going to go sleep for 50 years.
Yeah, let's see how this happens.
Yeah, I want to see what they can do, and then I'm going to have my fun.
I actually left this notebook up there kind of telling them how to get ahead because I don't want to. 50 years is a long time. I
played the game on easy too many times.
Yeah,
I want to play on like middle to difficult.
All right, so next we're going to have the Tremere. The rivalry with the Tremere stems from both clans' deep involvement with occult and mystical powers. The Ministry often views the Tremere's structured approach to blood magic as antithetical to their more chaotic, more nature-based mystical practices.
Yeah, I think, I feel that one feels more like yes, but I think there's also a reoccurring thing about most of the clans that were part of the Sabbat have some access to a rather robust skill set that the other clans don't, because they were supposed to be enemies, and you always want you always want to flesh out the enemies for the players,
right? So
I think you end up seeing that a lot of these clans, including the Setites, have access to stuff that like the normal core clans really wouldn't get without, especially when we talk about like the La Sombra and other clans who basically have their own version of magic.
Right.
Like an entire version of it. So,
well, as we'll get into, you can kind of see the Setites, they've kind of dialed them back when it comes to their capabilities and stuff like that. They kind of did the whole thing where one of their disciplines are like, oh, it's just an offshoot of Protean. So we'll get into that. So you have the Giovanni, which we haven't talked about. I don't know if we're going to talk about them. Are they even really in the book still?
Yeah, absolutely. They're well. So after we get through the Sabbat, we will start talking about kind of the lost or the like splintered, like the unique clans, and the Giovanni are definitely part of that.
Okay. So the Giovanni, historical disputes with the Giovanni, now part of the Hecta clan. Hecata, okay. Center around conflicts over necromantic practices and control over death-related domains. Both clans have vied for influence over death and the afterlife, leading to deep-seated mistrust. I'm not saying Setites are evil, okay? Everybody dabbles a little bit in necromancy.
I do like half their list of like conflicts is competition.
Right. Competition. It really is. It really is. Okay, and now probably the smallest, most tiniest tiff, the Assamites. So the Ministry of the Assamites have tensions due to religious and ideological differences, especially considering the Assamites' historical role as judges and executioners within the vampire society, which contradicts the Ministry's doctrine of freedom and personal exploration.
It is really interesting, because like if you're going to be kind of I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this, a less globally thinking person. Like often the Setites and the ministry and the Banu Akim are probably like two groups that you're like, oh, it's the weird, middle of the world kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like they are completely different.
Oh,
they are
terribly.
fundamentally enemies.
Yes.
Like
it's like the only similarities they have is they are vampires and they drink blood.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense where they're just like, oh no. Yeah. Those are like the boys who are like, they're unsettling and they do a whole thing and maybe you don't believe in their stuff, but behind them, they have a rigid religion and dictates of their culture.
Yes.
And no, that can't be allowed to.
It's like the Hasidic Jews of vampires. It's like, this is the way it is. And this is the only way it's going to be. Okay. Yep. We kind of hit that already. So we kind of mentioned this a couple times, but in 5th edition, the clan rebranded themselves as the Ministry, marking a significant shift in their public persona. This change reflects their adaptation to the modern knights, portraying themselves as more inclusive and less overtly sinister. This rebranding is part of their strategy to influence society's fringes and maintain relevance in a world where ancient gods carry less sway. I mean, it's like, you do something terrible, a corporation, or something, say you have Nestle and they, I don't know, steal water from drought-stricken areas to bottle it and resell it. And, they're like, oh, we got caught. Well, we got to rebrand ourselves. We're going to call ourselves Nestle. But the Ministry was at least smart enough to be like, oh, we can't call ourselves Setites. Setite has negative connotations. Let's go with something more wholesome and, less worrisome to the people. Let's call ourselves the Ministry. Yes, that's so much better. All right, so we already went through the clan banes, clan compulsions. So let's talk about their disciplines. So in previous editions, the Setites had an ability called Serpentis. Serpentis is a unique discipline associated primarily with the followers of Set, reflecting their connection to the serpent imagery and their clan founders' reputed powers. This discipline grants Setites the ability to assume snake-like qualities and perform supernatural feats that align with their thematic and mythological foundations. So you're really not going to find anything that's crazy powerful in this. Like, it's all just kind of like, yeah, that's kind of snaky. Let's just put that in there. But there's one ability they have that's really cool. So first you have Eyes of the Serpent. Basic level, they can paralyze a victim with a mere gaze, similar to the mythical basilisk. The effect is a mesmerizing stare that can immobilize any individual who directly meets the vampire's eyes. This power is used to control or neutralize threats without physical confrontation. Next, you have Tongue of the Asp. This ability allows a vampire to extend their tongue into a long, forked serpent's tongue. This tongue can be used to inflict damage, taste blood from a distance, or manipulate small objects. Yeah, I gotta turn that doorknob, but both my hands are tied, so I'm just going blah, blah, blah. Skin of the Adder. Vampire skin becomes tough and scaly like that of a snake, providing enhanced protection against physical damage and resistance to environmental hazards. Additionally, this transformation grants the vampire the ability to squeeze through tight spaces. So that's a little unsettling. So like they're like dislocating limbs and like crawling through a 3-inch hole, and then they stab you with their tongue. Form of the Cobra. This power transforms a vampire into a large, deadly cobra, complete with venomous capabilities. In this form, the vampire gains all the natural abilities of a cobra, including enhanced reflexes, a venomous bite, and the ability to slither quickly across various terrain. Go slither. And finally, the penultimate, Heart of Darkness. I've used this. At the most advanced level, this potent ability allows a Setite to remove their heart or that of another, placing it in a canopic jar or similar container. The heart can be hidden, making the vampire immune to staking and other traditional methods of destruction as long as the heart remains safe. This is a form of insurance, as destroying the detached heart is one of the few ways to kill the vampire definitively.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, I can't think of which version of that is worse. Like, knowing that you can't fully kill your enemy because their heart's missing, or waking up one day and knowing that your enemy got in and took
your heart. Yeah.
Like, I have the button now. Jeez. Yeah, like, ugh.
You know, that was my plan for Max. Was I knew I couldn't stop him, so that was going to be my off button for him, but we never reached that point. So in the current 5th edition, nothing really interesting. They've got Protean, which is, you know, that's kind of where their Serpentis came from, is the way they describe it. They have Presence, which, I mean, makes a lot of sense. Like I said, in this case, it'd be closer to like a Toreador, you know, making you, you know, infatuated, you know, that sort of thing with Presence, which is really good. I think I'd rather they have Presence than Dominate. I kind of feel like it's a better thing. It's more of a cult of personality sort of thing instead of it just a straight up, I'm telling you what to do.
Yeah.
And then they have Obfuscate, kind of the, you know.
Especially the whole thing about like if you try to take their ideology like at a face value, and a lot of their ideology stems from freedom and from this thing, like Dominate just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like if you choose to follow them, it's your bad.
Right.
It's your fault.
You made the mistake of listening to me.
Yeah. But if you dominate someone, then hey, that you're exerting control, and it doesn't
their freedom. Their freedom's not there anymore. You know. Yeah. No. Absolutely. I think that is very good thematically. It works very well. Finally, they have Obfuscate, which we've talked about before. It just allows them to hide and do numerous other things and hide numerous other things, which I think for a secretive society is a very good idea.
Okay, so they have Protean.
Yep.
Obfuscate.
Yep.
And Majesty.
Yeah.
Protean, Obfuscate, and Majesty. That's interesting. Protean, because they had to try to give them back their iconic abilities to Serpentis through Protean, because that's the weird one. Like if they didn't have that, the Obfuscate Majesty is like,
and I mean, it makes sense. So, you know, Set was the god of darkness, so Obfuscate, he's hiding. You know, difficult to see.
Also, like
tangible.
Every BS villain you've ever fought in a game is either like, everybody's going to believe me, not you.
Yeah. Or
I'm just not here.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
And if you skip past both of those, I'm just going to fuck you up.
Like, oh, wait. I didn't know I had to spend time on my third ability here. Oh, check out 2 points of bashing damage.
All right. So we're going to get into some of the clan variants. Some of these are, well, do I want to do that first? No, we'll get into the clan variants first. Some of these are simply offshoots of the followers of Set for a purpose. Some of them are outright, some of them are just outright, you know, like, oh, we believe something different. But I'm not going to get super huge into them. And I'm going to slaughter these names because I don't read Egyptian. So the first, we've got the Talik. Their discipline's a little different. They have Protean, Presence, and Serpentis. They're mainly in Latin America. They venerate Tezcatlipoca, a god of darkness and sorcery, and often transformation into jaguars instead of wolves. Okay.
Ooh.
I guess that's something else I want to touch on. So one of the big tenets that the Setites have is that in order to insinuate themselves into society, different societies, they just, much like Christianity, take local traditions and insinuate that into their traditions to kind of, you know, whitewash over it and be like, well, no, you know, Christmas wasn't a pagan holiday. Christ was born on Christmas. So very similar. So you're going to see that in a lot of these offshoots. They're mainly Setites that went someplace else and then modified their system to fit with the local society in order to integrate themselves.
The Bene Gesserit from Dune.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. So then you have Children of Damballa. They have Auspex presence in Serpentis. Auspex would be wonderful to have. So they're based in Sub-Sahara for Africa. They revere Set as Damballa Wedo, a Yoruban snake god, and practice rituals involving offerings to spirits. The Warriors of Glycon, they have Obfuscate, Potence, and Serpentis. Known as Crooks, they were a Dark Age caste dedicated to exaltation of violence and strength, viewing themselves as the physical enforcers of the clan. Crooks in this case being crooks of the shepherd, not crooks of just stealing shit. Serpents of Light obfuscate presence and Serpentis. Originally a Caribbean branch, they broke away to join the Sabbat, practicing voodoo and rejecting the worship of Set.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Mhm.
That was kind of interesting.
The Deata obfuscate presence Sandhana. I don't know what that is. Indian variant that merges the worship of Set with Hindu beliefs, specifically Shiva, focused on resilience and mystical influence. Warrior Setites, potents, presence, serpentants. They act as the bodyguards and assassins, claiming to play the original role of clan enforcers. These are the guys that took over for the Warriors of Glycon. Because, again, I'm not going to get into it, but there was the Battle of Glycon. And after that was over, they kind of left. Witches of Echidna, animalism, presence, and Setite sorcery. That's one we haven't seen yet. Also known as Gorgons. So we're looking at like Medusa. They survived in secrecy until modern times, worshiping a mother of monsters and practicing unique sorcery. That one's kind of cool. And the Walid Set, obfuscate presence and serpentance. The Arabian branch that remains loyal to the worship of Set, often in conflict with Ashira and particularly Assamite visors.
Ooh.
So here's a little breakdown of the hierarchy. As you can imagine, there's not a lot here, but there is some. So you have a high priest and high priestess. These individuals are at the top of the hierarchy, leading the clan's religious practices and guiding ideological doctrines. Faction leaders of various Setite factions or bloodlines, hold authority within their specific groups, managing local operations and adaptations of Setite philosophy. Like I said, this is where we integrate ourselves into the local society. Elders, long-lived and powerful elders, exert influence over strategic decisions and mentorship within the clan. Warrior Setites, this group includes the specialized members who are active protectors and enforcers of the clan's interests. Acolytes and neophytes. These are the lower-ranking members who are relatively new to the clan, are still learning its teachings and practices. The clan structure supports its adaptability to different cultural contexts and allows for a degree of autonomy among its various factions. This decentralized approach is particularly suited to their philosophy of infiltration, manipulation across different societies. So the thing that I really like about them is they're a cancer cell. They literally are, because even though small cell might break off from the main clan, their purpose never changes. It's always to do the same thing: infiltrate, grow, adapt, destroy.
By fire be purged.
Yes, exactly. That's your only choice. It's literally exterminatus. Like, this town has a Setite in it. Burn it. Burn every square inch of it. Yeah, that's a very good description. I like that. So there is a little bit of history with the Camarilla. So early history, initially the Camarilla and the followers of Set maintained a contentious relationship. The followers of Set were not among the founding clans of the Camarilla, primarily due to their divergent beliefs and practices. The Setites, known for their worship of ancient god Set and their practices involving corruption and vice, were seen as antithetical to Camarilla's primary goal of maintaining the masquerade. Imagine that.
So the elders who knew were like, no. They don't get a seat at the table.
Yeah, we don't let the Setites in. I'm gonna go to sleep now.
Well, you what?
You let them. So in first edition, Camarilla viewed the followers of Set with suspicion as potential threats to the masquerade, given the Setites' tendency to revel in, and spread corruption. Second and third editions, as the lore developed, the Camarilla's stance remained mostly unchanged, treating the followers of Set as outsiders and often as enemies, given their contrasting objectives and methods. V20, the relationship was still strained, but there was more narrative on individual Setites who occasionally worked the Camarilla members, showing a complex and varied set of interactions on a personal level rather than an organizational policy. So like that point, they're just like, well, Setites as a whole, we don't like them, but Bob's all right.
Bob's okay. Bob's a good guy.
He's got some information that I needed. He gave me some suggestions on how to handle a few things. He's all right.
He really helped me through my divorce.
Yeah, he really did. Really did.
He also kind of helped me before my divorce. Yeah. And when I lost my kids,
I mean,
he's
the one that really said that divorce was probably the right way to go.
You know.
And, he He was the one that kind of brought up she was cheating on me, too.
That's weird.
He's been spending a lot of time with my kids. I mean, their grades are really good, but man, they've been acting up. He gave me these pills, though. They really take the edge off. You know, they really let me relax. My mouth feels funny. All right. So recent developments in 5th edition. The rebranding of the followers set to the ministry in the 5th edition, there has been a shift in their public persona and their approach to relations with other vampire factions. The ministry's modern incarnation portrays itself as more inclusive and less overtly sinister, which has made interactions with the Camarilla more nuanced. The Camarilla itself has undergone changes and faced internal challenges, making its relationship with the ministry somewhat more flexible, though still cautious. So in V5, the ministry attempts to join the Camarilla officially. They propose a mutual benefit, emphasizing how their understanding of vice and corruption could serve the Camarilla's interests, particularly in maintaining the masquerade in modern nights. The acceptance process is complex and fraught with political maneuvering, reflecting a tentative but evolving relationship where prejudices meet new pragmatic alliances. Mm-hmm. So how do they get along with the Anarchs? So early on, the followers of Set had a history marked by its outsider status relative to the mainstream vampire factions like the Camarilla. The Anarchs, characterized by the resistance to elder domination and the strictures of Camarilla, initially presented a more natural alignment for the ministry compared to other sects due to shared interest in autonomy, challenging established power structures. Moving on, 1st through 3rd, much the same, still occasional collaboration, a lot of distrust, a lot of manipulation going on there. V20, there's a few temporary alliances, but again, mainly individual Setites, not as the clan as a whole. So in 5th edition, the followers of Sets turned into the ministry. Their relationship with the Anarchs saw significant development. They joined the Anarchs. The ministry officially sought integration to the Anarchs, proposing that their deep understanding of vice and manipulation could serve as a tool for political and social liberation, which is at its heart the Anarchs' philosophy. While the ministry's approach involves a spiritual or existential dimension that goes beyond the Anarchs' primarily political rebellion, their common ground in valuing freedom and oppression facilitated a smoother integration. There are a few, complexities with it. The ministry offers knowledge and mystical capabilities that can power Anarch causes while benefiting from the Anarch's network and resources to spread their philosophical teachings. Despite these alliances, there remains an undercurrent of skepticism, imagine that, due to the ministry's historical penchant for secrecy and manipulation. Trust is cautiously extended, with many Anarchs watching closely to ensure that the ministry's actions align with broader Anarch goals. So finally, we reach the Sabbat. So initially, relations between the Sabbat and the followers of Set was characterized by mutual suspicion and occasional conflict. The Sabbat, with its aggressive and often violent opposition to the Camarilla, saw the Setites as potential tools due to their influence and abilities related to corruption and subversion. However, the inherently secretive and self-serving nature of the Setites made them unreliable allies. The followers of Set were primarily concerned with their own agendas, focusing on spreading their influence and religious beliefs, which did not always align with the Sabbat's more anarchic and revolutionary goals. Plus, the Setites are probably just like, yeah, we'll help you. Just give us a seat at the table and we'll help you out. Later on, there were instances where the two groups cooperated, especially when their interests against the Camarilla aligned. However, the followers of Set were never fully integrated or deeply trusted within the Sabbat. The Setites often participated in Sabbat activities only to the extent that it benefited their own ends, particularly in regions where their presence and influence were strong, like parts of Africa and the Middle East. Ministry's relationship with the Sabbat in V5 is less about direct conflict or alliance and more about strategic interactions with the Sabbat itself, undergoing significant changes and facing internal challenges. The ministry seeks opportunities to expand their influence, sometimes crossing paths with Sabbat remnants and other factions. In the current narrative, the ministry's interactions with Sabbat are opportunistic rather than based on any formal alliance. They are willing to work with Sabbat members when it suits their goals, particularly in undermining the Camarilla, but they maintain a cautious distance, where the Sabbat's instability and potential for betrayal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's the Setites as I read from the thing I made.
So like I really find I think it's very interesting where you have their relationship with the Camarilla basically antagonistic for the most part. That makes sense. And then the Anarch one is just like it just feels sad for the Anarchs. Because the Setites are like, oh, we love what you're doing. That's so fun. Yeah, we'll help you out a little bit. Oh, you're gonna do great things, buddy. And you're like, wait,
We'll give you some hints. We'll give you some tips.
What?
Oh, here's some information you might like.
why are they setting us up? It's just the thing is like because they know everything you do is gonna fail, and they love the fact that that's happening, and you're a force against the Camarilla. Like,
But at the same time, they're giving you just enough that you don't completely fail.
Yeah,
There's
oh,
always
they-
like a couple straws that you can grasp at.
Well, they got to
It's
keep
like,
going.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It just needs to always falter. It's like, what if that's the real reason why the Camarilla, the Anarchs, the Sabbat, like none of them have really taken over? It's like every time there's just a Setite in the background going like, okay, time to pull the plug. Whenever they get close.
So close. Yeah. Yeah, the Setites very much feel like that whole kind of moment in like an RPG when like the devil shows up and he's like, oh guys, I'm not here for that. I wanted to watch this. So like if you guys need like a small favor just so that I can continue watching this, I don't care. That's fine because this is very interesting to me.
It's the whole it's the whole thing though where like the devil shows up and you're just like, oh shit, what are you gonna do, devil? And it's just like, oh no, I'm just here to watch because you guys did this all on your own.
So good. I am so proud of all of you.
What? Why did this happen? Oh, you know.
I think the Setites very much, I kept thinking about like that kind of concept of like a character like Batman being told that the only way they can save the day is by listening to the Joker.
Yeah.
And he's trying to explain to everybody that like nothing will go good.
Right.
No small gain is matters in comparison to the awfulness that will come of this union, And the Setites are just like, but like, hey, you guys you need to save those kids.
Yeah.
You need to save the kids.
But you put them in the house fire. Yeah, but I'm also giving you a way to save them.
But the kids need saving.
I'll sacrifice your firstborn.
Yeah. I think they can be fun. I think there's probably too much like license to just tear everything apart with them. Yeah. So you need people that are basically seeing like, like I think if you give like 10 people like, okay, hey, you're going to play Setites.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably not many of them that are going to be like, oh, I understand what this clan is meant to be. And I understand ways that I can have fun playing that without ruining everybody else's fun. I may ruin what they want to do, but I won't ruin their fun.
Well, at the same time, though, too, you don't necessarily have to be the spoiler in the game. A lot of the times as a player, you can see where another character's trying to, shoot their shot and trying to do their thing. And you might realize the repercussions of that. And you, instead of being like, I'm going to screw this up for you, just be like, no, I'm going to facilitate it because I know it's going to be bad.
Yeah. I was just thinking of the, what is it? I think the Dark Knight, where Alfred's telling him the whole story about the size of a tangerine, where he's basically saying like, oh, we were trying to go after this guy and we couldn't figure out why, and like blah blah blah, and in asking for payment, they were basically like picking up jewels like the size of tangerines, and they just didn't care because it's like that idea, like the Setite would be there going like, oh, we have to go steal this thing, and like 100% with you, and like the whole time they're being nothing but helpful and stuff, and at the end of it, when they have the thing and everybody's like, yeah, you get the spoilers, they're just like,
I don't need it.
Yeah, they just throw it away because like the whole act was taking it away.
Yeah.
Like because I got to take it away, and because I established it, because everything is worse from this thing.
Yes.
Like our group's profit doesn't matter in the long term because we damaged political affiliations, we damaged structure,
it's like as a group, I did not raise you up. I brought them down.
Exactly. Like just like that would be a fun person to have at the table because at the end of the day, the group's like, yeah, we had a good time. And then they're going to have to be like, didn't we do good? Like,
did we do good?
Objectively, we didn't, right? if so and so is happy, if Sedite Bob is happy, like I think we did more evil today than good.
Sedite Bob.
Sedite Bob.
No, I kind of feel like if you're gonna play a Sedite, you almost have to do it in secret.
Yeah, I would not want, unless you have a really good trusting group, I would not want people to know.
But and again, it's going to depend on the location where you're playing. Because if you're playing a Camarilla focused game, you cannot be a Sedite.
Yeah, or just you have to understand that you are going to be.
Yeah, you're going to be questioned. You're always going to be, looked at. You're never going to be trusted. You're always going to be on the fringe.
I mean, yeah, I think that you're just asking for playing that game on hard mode.
I mean, it'd be very easy to play them as a Toreador or even like a Gangrel, with Protean and everything like that. You could even play them as a Nosferatu because technically you don't. No. You could play off a Nosferatu, but the Nosferatu would be suspicious of you.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where like I'm trying to think of the clans that it would be really bad for them to figure out your Sedite.
Yeah.
And like the number 2, like 1 and 2 would be like Ventrue or Nosferatu. Because Nosferatu for a sense of clan are going to be like, I need to get this out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about politics. I don't care about your ideology, but you can't be in the place I make home.
Right.
Ventrue, obviously. I think like Malkavian Toreador, who cares? Tremere would be like, this is bad.
Yeah,
we need to get
absolutely.
rid of it. Bruja like might be too caught up in what's going on, and especially if you're a good player and you're like trying to kind of wax like ideologically with the Bruja, and you're like, we're not that different. We like you could get really messed up. Gangrel probably won't care.
No. All you gotta do is make some claws, and the Gangrel will probably be like, oh, that's cool.
I don't care. You're just like, you're the snake, and I'm the wolf. I don't care. Wolves don't care about snakes, Yeah.
Depends. Some snakes are real big.
Yes. You say that until you come back to your den and let me know your pups. Yeah, like it's interesting. I like the Banu Hakim would just be like, no, bad snake, you're dead. We like it is interesting. I think we have not been exposed to or like play where Sedites as a faction has been explored. I think we've had instances where people got to play one Sedite or they were used as boogeymen.
Right.
So I think it's far more interesting to use them I think interesting things could happen with them.
Especially when one of the players forgets Sedites are even in the campaign.
That was this.
I was looking in all the wrong places when it was so obvious. All I had to do was remember.
I'm so glad that I have that on video. I can go back and I can watch that and just watch everybody. I can watch 3 people of the cast just confused.
Yeah.
For a solid 15 minutes while one just has a mental breakdown. They're like, hey, everything's clear now. I know exactly what's happening. We're getting out of the city. That was really good. But yeah, I think that there are some avenues of Sedites that could be fun. I want to know your thoughts. What are the first couple ideas that come to mind when you think of a Florida Sedite?
Ooh, politician.
Oh yeah, right off the bat. Ooh, too almost low hanging fruit because it's just so obvious. Big church, mega church.
That one I feel is too obvious. No. Local HOA president.
Oh my God.
Oh God. Your garbage can was out past 3:00 today. I'm sorry. That's going to have to be a fine.
It's fine. You've signed. You're part of the homeowners association, so we can dispute this.
Oh my goodness! I see that you painted your house. It's so beautiful, but I'm afraid that color palette is not within the guidelines of the HOA. You're going to have to repaint it. Yeah, absolutely. A local HOA, any small power. Any position of, small finite power but in a place that makes people's lives miserable. Like that's where I see a Setite. So like parking enforcement, that sort of thing, some kind of middle management of, some large corporation.
Like crypto bro.
Yeah. If you want to hit like, what's his name? The dude that got arrested.
Oh,
I can't think of his name now.
Yeah.
Like totally a Setite.
Yeah, like I often think of like the Good Omens thing when they're talking about pestilence, and they're like, "What have you been doing?" He's like, "I developed a food that has no nutrition."
Yeah,
because it's not like I want to starve people. He's like, I want to give people the ability to eat and not eat
right
at the same time. Like I want to give them the thing they're going to choke on. And
right.
Like, yeah, crypto is like that.
Absolutely,
NFTs. Yeah, like just like we're a whole bunch of people are having a conversation, and everybody in the room except the person who's leading the conversation believes what's happening is like for the betterment of everybody. And the one person's like, "Oh, you guys."
Dude, Roger Stone is definitely a Setite. Absolutely. Roger Stone, he's one of the political backers behind Trump. Like he's that dude that's got the like really tiny round glasses. Like he just has a super punchable face.
He's the guy that came up with the plan. I think
he's one of the people,
okay,
yeah. But like he's got a tattoo of Nixon on his back. Like he's just absolute piece of shit. But like his whole thing is like anytime they interview him, he just says the most vile bullshit. But like he does it to rile people up and piss them off and all this other stuff. And it's like that's perfect. Like every time things start to cool down, people start to like get back within their own headspace and understand reality. He pops out and does something vile again, and it's just like.
That's the thing. I'm really captivated by the concept that basically in vampiric culture, every time you see groups like being pitted against each other, especially in the mortal realm, if like the camera will get involved and they like shut things down to make it more stable and they get involved, like the concept that like behind both sides are two Setites working together.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're just like, oh, okay, you lose our fun this time. We're just walking away. That concept like, what? The Antifa group that's like, rioting and also like the good boy, loyal boys or whatever the hell, like at the same, like both people are being led by the same pieces of, And
it's funny, like they clash. There's this, they're both wiped out and there's nothing left. And then the two Setites shake hands and say good job and walk away.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just so insidious. Like it is a manufactured evil that is impressive from a storytelling perspective where you're like, man, these guys are either like a kind of careless DM or careless storyteller treats them just as like, ooh, they're scary boogie.
Yeah.
But like a good storyteller basically will use them sparingly hopefully, but to like just really cement the fact that like this is not good. And I love the idea too that they just leave because they want to do their thing and they want to leave and then they want to wait until like it's time to come back.
Right. Or they just move on to the next project.
Yeah, like,
it's just like, well, I screwed up things in the South. I'm just going to go north.
Just like it's like traveling salesman, the census taker kind of person. Like, wow, this region, too much stability. Give me a few years. I gotta start doing things. Yeah.
I really like that idea. Like I know we've talked about it before. I've played a Setite in the past and I had a lot of fun doing it. It's just enjoyable for me to take things that people love and destroy them.
It is an expression of the dark side that I can appreciate, but I can't
because you can't do it yourself.
I can't. Like I can be the freaking Vader like guy who's full
Obviously,
of himself. Yeah, but like, oh my.
The guy that's your friend until, the moment you need him behind you and then you turn around and he's gone.
Yeah. If I ever played a Setite, it would only come about because of some weird, like we drew straws and I would be so paranoid about, it would just be like, ironically, the Setites would love it because I would not be having fun the entire time I was doing
absolutely.
it. Like they'd be like, "This is the way we rock." So
no. I mean this is my choice of type of character, as Gray knows, with the type of games that we've played and stuff like that, and our current D&D game, and how against the grain I've had to go with the character that I have right now. and the difficulty I have because of the stories we've told about previous games and how everybody immediately is looking at me trying to decide when I'm going to pull the rug out. And I'm just like, I'm not.
It's not.
It's difficult.
This isn't that game. Yeah, that's
counterspell. It's one of my favorite things. Is counterspell.
All right. Well, I think we've waxed poetic about the Sedai's long enough. Yeah, so, check your beds, check your closets, because if you find anything in there, light the house on fire. That's about it. All right. See you guys later.
Goodbye.